Can you believe we made Owlbert from a Crest mouthwash bottle?
Me neither, but I guess the Titan gave us a little of our own magic.
We're going to walk you through every step of the way, so be sure to check the description below for all the supplies you'll need. Well, let's get cracking.
The first thing you have to do is make or find your template. With mine, I wanted round edges for Owlbert, so I ended up making my own template using the mouthwash bottle as a base. But regardless if you're using a foam template or just the bottle, you'll have to cut the top of the bottle and shift it down before you get started. That's the only way for the wooden closet pole sockets and Owlbert to fit snugly on the broomstick. If you're fine using the bottle's shape, you can skip making a template and go right to making the other details like the face, beak, and wings. Now for those of you who want to venture into template making, you'll need to wrap the mouthwash bottle so we can get its shape. To give Owlbert a round head, make an oval out of aluminum foil to put in the dip at the bottom of the bottle. Then, wrap the whole bottle in aluminum foil. This is to prevent the duct tape from sticking to the actual surface. Put one layer of duct tape around the bottle to hold the aluminum foil in place. Since we want our pieces to be symmetrical, use a ruler and marker to measure and draw on the center lines of your bottle. With the last layer, we're going to cover one side of the 4 pieces we've marked on the bottle, so cover that area with one layer of masking or painter's tape. Then, redraw the center lines for reference. In order for the template to bend the right way at the top, we'll also need to add a line where the head and body meet. Draw on registration marks going along each seam. That way, when you have to glue the pieces together, you can line them up accurately. Carefully peel off the masking tape. Then use a scissor to separate the body and head pieces. Now that we have our template, you can either trace those pieces out on 2mm EVA foam, or do an extra step of tracing them out on a piece of paper first. I went the paper route so that I wouldn't have to struggle to completely flatten out the tape every time. Also, by doing this, I was able to scan my template and shrink it down to 96% to give it a better fit on the bottle. When you're tracing, remember that you need 4 pieces for each, with 2 of them being the horizontal reflection of the original. And don't forget to add your registration marks too. Using an X-Acto knife or scissors, cut out all of your pieces. Next, we're going to glue the front and back halves together. When it comes to gluing, I use barred cement glue. If you want something to really stick together, that's the way to go. I like to use a little piece of foam to apply the barred cement glue. Put a thin layer of glue on the piece itself and where it'll be sticking to. Then, use a hairdryer or heat gun to semi-dry the glue. Attach your pieces. But be careful, once it's together, it's pretty hard to take apart without ripping the foam. Once those are glued, it's time to make the face, beak, and wings. With the face, blow up a picture of Owlbert that would fit widthwise on the bottle. Then, trace it on 4mm EVA foam and cut it out. From the same blown up picture, trace the beak on 6mm EVA foam and cut it out. The wings are a bit trickier. What I ended up doing was free drawing them using my body and face templates for placement and size references. The idea is that the wing is divided by the front and back halves, which will then be glued onto those respective body pieces. My advice would be to give yourself some extra length where the 2 back halves meet, so that when you wrap it around the body, you don't end up short. I actually ended up making another set of wings because of that. Now, we're going to spruce up the edges of our face, beak, and wings. To do this, use a Dremel or sandpaper. The goal is to create round edges. Hold the Dremel at an angle along the edge. Do this for all of your edges, excluding the edges where you'll glue the wing halves together and where the back halves meet. With all of our pieces sanded, we'll need to glue again. Glue the beak to the face. Then, glue the front and back halves of each wing. The last thing we have to do with setting up our pieces is to trace out the face on the front body piece. That way, we can accurately cut out the eyes. Once the eyes are traced out on the body, use an X-Acto knife to cut them out. Again, use the Dremel to round out the inner edges of the eyes. So now that we have all of our pieces, we can start prepping the mouthwash bottle for light up eyes. If you don't want your eyes to light up, you can just paint the bottle the same color as the beak. At the bottom of the bottle where the dip is, we're going to cut a big enough hole so that we can fit our hand in, while keeping the structural integrity of the bottle intact. To prevent the rough edges from cutting your hand, use a low grit sandpaper drum and then a high grit sandpaper drum to soften the hole's edges. For the lights, you can use whatever you'd like. I ended up using 2 lights to make a gold color. Both use a 3-volt battery and are soldered to a button switch. Depending on what you use, you'll have to figure out a game plan on where your battery packs and switches will be. With the lights I purchased, I used Velcro to hold them in place where the eyes would be. This left the battery packs at the bottom, where the wooden closet pole sockets would go. After you've set up your lights, use 120 grit sandpaper to sand the bottle where the eyes will be. This will diffuse the light and give it a softer glow. Now we'll need to prep Owlbert for painting. Fit the front and back halves of the body over the bottle and glue them together. Then, glue the wings onto the body. Next, we'll apply a heat treatment to the foam. This makes the foam stronger because it helps close the surface cells. Since we don't want our eyes or battery packs to get painted, use painter's tape and plastic bags to block off those areas. For the eyes, I put painter's tape on the plastic bottle and then stuffed plastic bags in. When you prep EVA foam for painting, you'll need to Plasti-Dip it. Plasti-Dip helps harden the foam so that the paint doesn't get absorbed into it. It basically gives it a base coat. I use the camo Plasti-Dip because Owlbert is going to be brown anyways. Apply 2 coats of Plasti-Dip and wait a half an hour for each of those layers to dry. After that, it's time to actually paint. To get the right colors, I ended up mixing quite a few acrylic paints. This is what I used for the body and beak. This is what I used for the wings, top of the head, and back. And this is what I used for the face. Apply 4 coats of paint for each color. To seal the paint, take some Pledge floor cleaner and apply 1 light layer to Owlbert. Sometimes too much floor cleaner could produce bubbles, so make sure you brush them away so that they don't dry on. Once it was all dry, I used an X-Acto knife along the top of the head seam line so that I could have easy access to the lights if I needed to service them. With Owlbert done, it's time to prep our wooden closet pole sockets and broomstick for staining. In order to stain the wood properly, they need to be unfinished wood. Using 120 grit sandpaper, sand all the wooden pieces until they're smooth. For the best results, use 80 grit and then 180 grit sandpaper. Then, wipe off the dust with a dry paper towel. Now, it's time to stain our wood. If you're a bit clumsy, like me, be sure to put out plastic tarp over your work area just in case. Once you open your wood stain, take a stick and stir it thoroughly. I chose dark walnut for the broomstick and 1 wooden closet pole socket, and then Ipswich pine for the other socket. With a paintbrush, apply a thin coat of wood stain. If you put too much, there will be dark patches on your wood. Take a dry paper towel and wipe off the excess stain. Be sure to wipe in the direction of the grain. Once it's dry, apply another coat and repeat the process. I put 3 to 4 coats for each stain to get the color I liked. After you've stained all of your wooden pieces, we'll need to apply varnish to them. This will protect the wood from scratches and fading. Mix the varnish thoroughly and apply 2 coats with a paintbrush. It'll take 24 hours to fully dry. Once everything is dry, we'll need to cut all of our wooden pieces. The broomstick is the easiest, so we'll start there. If you have a tip like this at the end of your broomstick, cut it off with a Dremel. My advice is to make it completely flat. Next, cut up a silicone tube to snugly slide through the top of the broomstick. That'll make it easier to mount Owlbert and allow us to have access to the battery pack and button switch. For the wooden closet pole sockets, you'll need to cut a hole through the center so that they'll slide through the top of the mouthwash bottle. To do this, take a 1 3/8 hole saw and drill a hole through both. Then, we'll need to glue all of our pieces together. Using wood glue, stick both sockets together. Once the sockets have completely dried, using 5-minute epoxy, glue them to the mouthwash bottle. Remember to thoroughly mix the epoxy so that it'll bond right. If you have lights, glue the 2 battery packs together. but make sure you only get glue on the plastic. Then, glue the battery packs to the top of the broomstick. Slowly shimmy and slide Owlbert on top of the silicone tube. And then you're ready to save the boiling aisles with your new witch staff, or if you're sporty, play flyer derby with the emerald entrails.
Now that Owlbert's done, I kinda wanna make another character's staff. Let us know in the comments below how your staff turned out, and if you want us to make anything else Owl House related. If this video helped, please give us a like, and if you're looking for more cosplay how-tos or to learn something entirely new and different, be sure to check out our how-to hub and subscribe. Your next project might be right here. Well, I think I'm gonna make Luce's cloak next, so I'll catch you guys later. Yeah, let's get my size. It'll go really well with the staff.